DJ.
Here, lizard. It's the almighty King Cooper, chameleon at a color-changing lizard, the mixtape messiah. Please stand for the ghetto national anthem. Let's go. Man, forget what them boys is talking about. I'm true, man. You riding swings, you gripping grain. I do, man. You candy red, you candy blue, you popping trunk, you candy screw. Don't know about you, but I'm true, man. Forget what them boys is talking about. I'm true, man.
It is another week, and it is finally another great American cast. We are back with you after a little bit of a layoff here on the program. I am Tanner Acebo, and I am joined by my newly unmasked co-host. Who is that on the other end of the line?
It is with mixed emotions that I reveal that I am no longer Gary Lannister, nor was I ever Gary Lannister. It was a name I used when I was young and senseless on the Twitter. It's a name through which I met many wrestling personalities, particularly in the podcasting and blogging world. And I wanted them to remember me when I started my own podcast. And then I realized I'm terrible at promoting my podcast. And they've grown and they've moved far away and they won't ever come on this show. So instead of just having a weird name, because I've never gotten used to being called Gary, ever. So, and it was my request, so I just feel like a fucking idiot now. So that's the long and short of it, is I felt like a fucking horse's patoot. So I'm going back to my real name, which is Alex Kodge. At some point, I'm going to take a fucking stage name, because I want to write and act and all that shit. So, you know, that's it, basically.
Maybe
Unmasked.
not the last we've seen of Gary Lannister. But yes, unmasked. And I don't see Alberto Del Rio anywhere to help you put that mask back on, at least at this point.
No, where is he when you need him, you know? Probably off macking on all the divas.
Yes.
Excuse me, female superstars.
Yes, the women wrestlers, the superstars, as it were.
Yes. Uh-oh. We might have our first cutout.
Hello?
Yep, sure do. That's, So let me preface this for people who are listening, and depending on how we edit this, maybe you don't hear this. But we have been having some issues with each other kind of cutting in and out, and I appear to have lost Tanner. I am swirling. I am swimming in a sea of sadness. I'm swirling in an ether. I'm waiting for him to tag back in. It's looking grim, I gotta tell you. Oh, the entire call got dropped. So, Tanner, you back with us? Yes. Yes? Tanner,
Hello?
are you back with us?
Hello?
Tanner, you back
Hello?
with us?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, wonderful.
Yes. Did you stay recording that whole time?
I did, yes.
Me too, we made it.
It's very sad and confusing on my end. So we'll just
great.
mute that.
Jesus Christ. So we'll have to tape something at the end of this and be like, a couple times the audio cut out, so don't mind
Definitely.
the choppy editing.
Fucking A.
This is write a congressman if it bugs you. Thanks for supporting, assholes. Fuck our fans.
Fuck our fans, good night.
Did I tell you I told my 10-year-old nephew about that, and that was the worst mistake I ever made?
Fuck our fans?
Because he was like, do you care if I swear in front of you? And I said, nah, I don't give a shit. So I wasn't going to do it in front of him. I wasn't going to encourage him, but I was going to let him get it out of his system. So he was just like swearing up a storm for the while, and I was just like talking about our band, and I was like, yeah, you know, there are some times where we'll just like finish a song and say, good night, fuck our fans. And he thought that was the funniest fucking thing in the world.
No.
He told everyone at the wedding, and they're all
No!
like,
No!
Great. Good.
No, god damn it! Son of a bitch.
Yes. Yes.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck's going on with my internet.
I'm going to check mine and make sure it's not a problem on my end. So you might lose me for a second. Should we stop recording or keep recording?
Might as well stop recording. It'll be easier to edit.
Okay. I'm recording now.
As am I. All right.
Excellent.
So why don't you just jump in and keep... We don't need to worry about syncing it up. Because I'll be able to do it in post.
Oh, okay. Okay, do you just want to jump in then, like, right after, like, the Divas line? So, because, like, I don't have anything more to say. Okay, cool.
So, yeah, Del Rio, if our listeners are not aware, apparently he is seeing or dating or Netflix and chilling with Paige. And also before his and Paige's quote-unquote fling started, he had one with Charlotte as well, and there was actually, apparently, some genuine heat between the two backstage.
Oh my God. Why do these people keep shitting where they eat?
Well, that's the thing is that a lot of wrestlers say, you're out on the road for so long, you look for relationships kind of within the company. But to have 2 ones in that quick of succession, what do you think's going to happen?
Yeah, that's not good. That's not good. I just don't, I understand that. So for every, like, Tyson and Natalia that you have the dearly departed King Barrett and Alicia Fox. And I only know that because of Total Divas, which, feeds on this shit.
Yes,
like
and I'm
krill.
sure that this will become a future storyline on Total Divas.
Oh, my God. Can you imagine? Jesus Christ, it is. It's going to be... They're going to add Charlotte to the cast... And I don't want to talk about it.
More important things to discuss in the world of Pro-Graps. We've been off the air for quite a while on a bit of an extended hiatus here on the program. We do have a lost episode that we're going to be releasing in the near future. Sort of a Back to the Future to the Past episode. Because if we say Back to the Future, we'll get sued. But we are nuts deep in the Build to Extreme rules. It is coming up this Sunday, and a lot of, I would say, quality feuds on the card. Let's just dig right into it. Alex, almost called you Gary there at a reflex.
You can even call me Koch because I know that's going to be your instinct. I just made my peace with it a long time ago. I was like, it's something I'll have to explain to people, but I don't care.
Reigns and AJ. And this extended feud they've had coming out of Payback, and the extended involvement of the Usos on Reigns' side, and Gallows and Anderson on AJ's side. I want to go back to Raw last week, where they had the elimination match. And we were discussing this via text message. Elimination tag matches are one of my favorite stipulations, because when I was getting back into wrestling the most was when we got those great matches between Evolution and The Shield. And that culminated in that elimination match. So I always, get a little tight in the shorts when an elimination tag match is announced. And this elimination tag match they did just shit all over everything. I'm just going to come right fucking out and say it. I was so fucking pissed off. This match felt like nothing. I think it was like 12 minutes in total, including a commercial break where an elimination happened during the break. We get this whole huge build-up for it to be Reigns against Styles one-on-one, and then they go outside the ring, and there is just this extended pause, and you can tell that they're waiting for something, and it's Gallows and Anderson attacking Reigns with a chair, and we get a DQ finish. And this is something, these extended pauses are something I've been noticing a lot of lately, and I don't know if it's because Styles, Gallows, and Anderson are just not used to working with the main roster guys in WWE, but there were extended pauses during that moment in that match. In the post-match beatdown angle, there was a moment where Carl Anderson was like really half-heartedly, half-shittily running at Reigns with a chair raised over his head, and the end result was going to be him eating a spear, but he looked like he had no intent of swinging the chair down. And then even on this week's episode of Raw, AJ holding a chair up, and you can tell he had no intention of hitting Reigns with it, and I think he ate a Superman punch or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's just, I mean, I know they work snug over in Japan, but I don't know that necessarily means they work with reckless abandon. Do you know what I mean? But it does seem like they're having to adjust to go like half speed almost. If that makes any sense.
I think it makes total sense, and I think that, maybe. Again, I don't know the processes of the WWE, if they do any sort of dress rehearsals or anything like that. But if they were building up to this big angle and they had long-term booking in mind, which is a huge if, why wouldn't they have these guys kind of working through some of these spots with each other so they would look the most authentic when they were shown live on television?
Well, who knows, Tanner? If my aunt had nuts, she'd be my uncle. But in all seriousness, it's the kind of storytelling devil in the details shit that they just don't think about. And I have no idea why. It's the lowest of the hanging fruit.
So we're getting AJ and Roman in an Extreme Rules match coming up on Sunday night. There is obviously going to be heavy involvement from the Usos, who are displaying some new terrible face paint. Just fucking abysmal. I thought they both had open sores on their face.
Yeah, it was really bad.
And Gallows and Anderson, I'm glad that they're not putting the Usos and Gallows and Anderson in a separate match, because we've already seen that match way too many times. But so they're obviously going to be there. They will be involved, and it'll be interesting to see how they get Reigns out of the building with the title on him.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Yeah, I don't know. It's because we sat here and on the last episode we talked a lot about Payback and what our expectations were there, and a lot of what we thought was going to happen never came to fruition. And it seems like they're telling a way different story. We were thinking, Bash at the Beach '96, and I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, I just don't understand. And some of the rumors are that this feud might even continue into Money in the Bank. So wow. I just don't know how you can get an inconclusive finish in an Extreme Rules match. Considering we already got one in their first match at Payback. A conclusive finish.
Yeah. I mean, do you have Roman Reigns pin AJ Styles, and do you punk him out like that, or do you put it on AJ Styles? Like, I don't know. But one of those has to be the right call because, again, it's an Extreme Rules match where the points are made up and nothing fucking matters.
And if you were to put the belt on AJ, I feel like it would be a hot potato kind of thing, and they'd put it back on Roman.
Exactly.
If not before, but at Money in the Bank, because he's the guy. He's not a good guy. He's not a bad guy. He's the fucking guy. And even AJ said the punchline, or not the punchline, the tagline for him. But he ended it in a cool way. You'll be the guy that I'm going to beat at Extreme Rules. But Reigns still has nuclear heat with the crowds. They're kind of teasing this heel turn, but not really, because then AJ Styles turns around and uses chairs on Roman Reigns. So they're both kind of walking the tightrope at this point. And I expect a very physical match between the two. I expect a lot of chairs being used, because that's clearly the story they're telling. And I think AJ's got a bum ankle, and that's why he didn't wrestle on Monday, and they took him off the house shows from this past weekend. But I just hope that he doesn't aggravate that injury anymore in a gimmick match like this, and then they have to throw all their plans out the window moving forward if the feud were to continue. So there are a lot of moving parts here in the top program in the company.
Yes, agreed. And yeah, here's hoping we don't get the Usos and Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows, which he's back to Luke Gallows, yes. I guess, right?
Correct. Yeah, when he came,
Doc anymore.
when he showed up, they made it very clear that he was Luke.
Right.
So and again, where do they go? If Reigns beats Styles, how do they extend the feud? Yeah.
You don't. You can't. What incentive does Roman have to give AJ
And
another shot?
I really hope that they wouldn't turn around and do a ladder match at Money in the Bank for the belt. And that's if the AJ and Roman feud continues, or if Reigns moves on to feud with somebody else over the belt.
See, yeah, and that's the thing is I think Roman Reigns and AJ Styles would have a sweet ladder match.
Yes.
'Cause they have great chemistry. And I think if they had the kind of ladder match that's like the ladder match, it's not the one where you're power bombing each other through ladders and concussing each other. It's, the gold standard. It's WrestleMania 10, it's HBK and Razor Ramon, and it's a wrestling match, and the ladder only comes into play insofar as getting you to that belt.
I just feel like, Dean and Seth had a very good ladder match last year at Money in the Bank for the belt. A very good ladder match. In an era where ladder matches are so saturated, it seems every time we turn around, we're getting a ladder match for some sort of belt. Or in the case of the pay-per-view, the Money in the Bank briefcase, which is another thing that's kind of looming above everything. Not only who's going to win it, but who's going to be in the match. Because they have a ton of potential candidates to be in that match. And that's something I'm sure we'll talk more about coming out of Extreme Rules. Who are the big winners of Extreme Rules? Who are the big losers? And, whose stock is rising. But I wasn't the year before the Money in the ladder match at Money in the Bank where they had both belts up for grabs and Cena won it?
Yes.
Because Daniel Bryan had to
you're
vacate
right.
the belts. So we've now gone back-to-back years at Money in the Bank, and maybe even further back than that, because I wasn't watching the previous year. Really showing my true colors here. But was not watching at that point. So, there's got to be, in the words of the immortal Daniel Cochran, something's got to give.
Something's gotta give.
Again, if they continue this feud, there's going to be a reason to continue it. I just hope they don't continue it for the sake of continuing it. And maybe John Cena comes back, as is announced, May 30th, right? He comes back. Maybe he comes back and he instantly enters the main event scene and he challenges Reigns. Stranger things have happened. But I don't know. There are a ton of possibilities right now, and I think the best thing, what's best for business, to take a line from heel Steph, not the current Steph that's on our television sets, but heel Steph, would be to have Reigns beat AJ, and then they close the feud out.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I think Cena versus Reigns could be a huge money draw for SummerSlam.
Exactly. So you could.
I mean, it's for people in the know, it's the passing of the torch, and for regular fans, it's either the guy you hate going over the guy you used to hate more, or it's your beloved Cena getting crushed by Reigns or whatever. But it's there's everybody will have a stake in it one way or the other, even if it's just to ironically be like, they're both just like the preordained princes of the company, so like it doesn't really matter. It's like Clinton and Trump. Like, it doesn't matter who wins. Like, we're still fucked, okay? Like, so you want to go into it with that fucking attitude, that's fine. But, I think it'd be a hell of a match. Because whatever you want to say about either of those guys, they can
and that's another
wrestle.
thing that's really been kind of going by the wayside is, and we've talked about it on this podcast many times, but it's really showing as of late that Roman Reigns is coming into his own as a professional wrestler. I mean, he is really delivering some quality stuff. And I think that eventually, I can't put a date on it, but eventually the crowd's going to turn back the other way, be it for a Shield reunion. People are talking about the Shield getting back together and feuding with the Club. and that would be just absolute insanity. I think it's too early to do it now, but I think that there's money there. There is a lot of money there.
See, 100% agree.
Yeah.
But you got to build that. It's exactly like you said. I think it's too soon. You got to build that. You got to build the club into a legitimate threat. Because here's the thing. Everybody loves the club, but everybody plays along when it comes to the club. Because they're new enough that the casual fan and the arena fan will have no trouble palating the fact that they're supposed to be the heels. You can turn AJ Styles heel. You can. It's not out of the realm. He's good at it. So depending on the story you tell, you could turn him heel and you could turn them firmly heel, and you could have the club, whether you add Finn Balor, whether you leave him aside, whatever, but you could have at least those three men tearing through the roster. And I think that necessitates the Shield
exactly.
getting back together. So if they take out the Usos and some, it's like, okay, backs to the wall, we're all being targeted by this group. That's what gets the Shield back together. You can't just be like, fuck it. Everyone forgot about what Seth did, and Seth doesn't want his title back. And
what about a Survivor Series match? I'm treading into waters of stuff that I want to talk about later with the Bullet Club and Ring of Honor and how they're going full NWO with it down there, and not to say down there as in they're below WWE by any stretch of the imagination. But you could do a club. If it becomes the Bulletproof Balor Club versus WWE, you could do something like that.
Because what if you got? I mean, I don't know. It's just a little fun booking for a minute, but wouldn't it be interesting if you had obviously the three members of the club? You had Anderson and Gallows, and then you had Styles. But you bring up Finn Balor and Shinsuke Nakamura. I know he wasn't in the Bullet Club in New Japan, but he's got a connection, however tenuous you want to say it is. Mm-hmm. He's got a connection to it. So you could easily be like, okay, he's part of the club. It's a New Japan invasion in WWE. They'd never acknowledge New Japan, but my fuck would that be amazing.
And then with a feud like that, you could have the top WWE guys in a Survivor Series match, a traditional elimination match, and it would have stakes. It would mean something. It would be organic, and the stakes would be there. And hopefully, the company wouldn't turn around and forget it 2 weeks later, like they did with the Survivor Series angle that saw Dolph Ziggler overcoming all the odds and Sting debut.
Yes.
I'm having a moment here. I remember what it was. I just noticed that Bulletproof Balor Club, the abbreviation is BBC. Yeah, so
BBC.
if they do show up,
Interesting.
I really hope they don't start calling it that. What was the name that they used before? That was some like porno term or something like that in the women's division.
Oh,
yes,
submission
that could be
sorority?
a submission sorority 2.0 problem right there. You get
because there was I think a series called like Submission Sisters or something like that. I can't remember, but it was obviously like an S&M thing, and everyone just in WWE was like, "Oh, submission sorority, that sounds awesome. People are gonna think like Ronda Rousey." And it's like, no, we're thinking about girls choking
porn.
each other with belts.
So,
I mean, I didn't know what it was, but
a quick Google
enough people
can provide definite information there. Moving on through the upcoming card and the build for Extreme Rules, there is a program that you and I are both very high on, and that is this 4-way for the IC belt. This is really 4 mid-card guys, as the company has seen them, shall we say, that have elevated the IC belt and elevated their feud for it, and continue to just put in great work night in and night out.
Absolutely. And do you want to know how I think it ends? I'm just going to say right now.
You got the
Miz gets taken out of the match early on. I don't know what happens, but he eats an apron powerbomb or something, but he gets taken out early on. You let the other 3 put on an insane three-way wrestling match, and then at the end, Miz steals a win with some Maurice
Yes.
interference. He just snags someone, rolls him up. Because I think you were right, because I asked you, I said, who do you have for this? And you said The Miz. And I tried to think about it, and I think you're right. Because I think if you put it on Cesaro, it simultaneously doesn't feel big enough and feels like it was done at the wrong time. Because what story do you tell? Like, those three men are still after it now, and we're going to potentially, like you said, hot potato it around. And I think the other option would be putting it on one of Kevin Owens or Sami Zayn. Probably Sami Zayn, and then Kevin Owens would be pissed that Sami won the title. You can go that route, but I don't know. I think if you put it on Cesaro, as much as I love him, it kills the momentum for the other three guys in a weird way. And I'm not explaining it well, but it takes away something
totally
to fight
understand.
over. You know what
and
I mean?
let me toss the pencil my way here. I could even see it as, let's say, Owens pop up your scenario. Miz gets taken out early. The other three men fight. We get to our finish. Owens hits a pop-up powerbomb on Sami Zayn. Cesaro comes in, hits a neutralizer on Owens, goes for the Cesaro swing. Miz slips in from behind. Boom, skull-crushing finale on Cesaro for the win.
Oh, yep.
And it sucks that Cesaro would eat the pin. However, that move, I believe, would be the only one that you could set somebody up for the skull-crushing finale from behind. Because if Owens whips the guy into the ropes and Miz comes in and hits the skull-crushing finale, they get crashed into by the guy coming in off the ropes, in theory, with the suspension of disbelief. Right, yeah. I mean, I could watch these four guys feud over this belt for a very long time. And, definitely. I mean, you can only do so many four-way matches, multi-man matches for a belt, so it would be interesting to see out of this where everybody else goes from it. If anybody continues to challenge for the belt, I think it would be Cesaro. And I think that Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens are two prime contenders for the Money in the Bank ladder match.
Hell yeah. And one of them is gonna keep the other from
and then we can have another singles match with them. Like they can continue this feud on for fucking years. If they tell the story right. Mm-hmm. If they don't oversaturate us with the matches, just the two of them in the match. If they put multiple bodies in there, it's I think it's
exactly.
I think it's gonna be great.
I completely agree.
And I think that Miz continues to do fantastic work. I mean, this guy is having an incredible year. Bringing back Maurice was fantastic. Their work on his work on commentary on Monday night was great as always. They brought back the little opening to his entrance music, the Quiet on the Set opening. They roll out the red carpet for them now when they come down the ramp. I don't think they've done it in a little while, but maybe we'll see it again coming up on SmackDown this week. In the what the hell? What's Miz's show called? Miz TV. Yeah, I think if we see it on Miz TV, where they do the spot where he recites lines from movies, and he's like, "No, I want to take that again." And Maurice serves as the director. Mm-hmm. I think that's like wrestling comedy perfect.
And everybody shits on that, dude. Everyone's like, I don't want to have to fucking watch this again. How many fucking times are we going to have to sit through him
It's
making
the delusion of his character, and it's fucking perfect because his wife is part of the delusion. You can see she's one of the people that feeds the delusion. It's awesome. The fact that his opening video has action scenes from those shitty WWE Studios movies is A+. A++. Like, everything about them is perfect. It's fantastic.
Miz is a great hand. He's not like the greatest technical wrestler in the entire world, but
yes,
you don't have to be. You don't have to be when you have all the other things that the Miz has.
Would Miz fit in New Japan? Absolutely not. Does Miz fit in WWE?
No.
Like a glove.
Like a glove?
We're talking IC belt. There's another, seemingly forgotten belt that exists, and it's around the waist of the masked man Kalisto. Kalisto and Rusev. They had the Battle Royal. Rusev won it to be the number one contender for the U.S. title. Last week on Raw, I'm going to get a little fired up again. I can already feel it. Rusev's fighting Botchkara, the man who can injure himself in a single bound. And Kalisto comes out and kicks Rusev in the head. And Rusev loses to Sin Cara. What? Kalisto's the babyface? Mm-hmm. Absolutely fucking stupid. Stupidity at its best. The U.S. title continues to feel like an afterthought. And I was listening to The Law, live audio wrestling, put on by the Fight Network, and it's a fantastic show. It's live on Sunday nights on TSN Radio in Canada, but they save it as a podcast, and you can download it Monday mornings. And the big discussion that they were having on this week's episode was about this U.S. title, and how John Cena elevated it so much when he left. Before he left, sorry. Del Rio comes in, they put him in the shitty gimmick with Zeb Coulter, the Mex America gimmick. And then it looks like Del Rio's going to be the top Latin American star in the company, as was promised, apparently, to him before he came back. They have Kalisto win the belt, but not before they hot potato it multiple times. And now Kalisto is supposed to be the top, Latin American star. But he has not been booked like one. And the U.S. title the stock in this belt has dropped so much that it's being defended on pre-shows, pay-per-view in and pay-per-view out.
Yeah, and you ain't got Ryback.
Yeah, exactly.
To kick around
and
no
you've
more.
lost Ryback. He is seemingly done with the company. I can hear Steve LeClaire whimpering all the way from Berlin, Vermont, over his parents' house where he's eating dinner this evening. He was very sad when I broke that news to him. He actually asked. He asked me if his Ryback shirt was worth more money, and I said no. It's still worthless.
Steven. Oh, Steven, you stupid bitch. Listen, I don't understand where the fuck, and okay, once again, couldn't do what he does, but I feel qualified to say, Ryback, if you fucking think for a minute that you deserve to be the next John Cena, the next face of the company, you are out of your fucking mind. You are the most boring fucking person to watch wrestle on the planet. I worry when you're going to harm someone. I don't understand who you are other than a hungry dude who flushes invisible old-timey toilets with the long chain. You look like a hamster on steroids. So I just think the balls to be like, oh, this company isn't letting me spread my wings and I'm not getting paid enough to do the job.
And then he kind of did the martyr bit where he said, not everyone gets treated equally. Not everything gets, the people that lose every night should make the same as the people that win every night. And that statement, that's like that, he's looking at it so fucking wrong. Because it's not the people that lose don't make as much money. It's the top stars are the guys that win. Because they're the top stars. Do they lose sometimes? Yes. Roman Reigns lost at WrestleMania last year. Clean as a sheet. He ate the pin.
Mm-hmm.
So I just don't understand how he can sit back there and say, the guys that lose should make as much as the guy that wins. No, the top draws make the top draw money. That's how the business works. That's how the business always has worked. We can get fucking Jim Cornette on the phone and he will corroborate fucking everything. Going back to the 1940s or 30s. That's the business model of professional wrestling. Now sports entertainment. But still, it's still the same fucking thing. So if he's sitting there thinking that he should make as much money as a John Cena or a Roman Reigns, he is so delusional.
He's sadly mistaken. And it's infuriating. It's fucking infuriating because I would never walk into a university and be like, well, I technically have 1 year of teaching at a university level under my belt, but I should be making as much as the highest tenured professor that everyone wants to take their class. It's like, are you fucking shitting me, dude? Just know your fucking, as The Rock would say, know your role and shut your mouth.
Make it like a fucking hockey comparison. Does the guy that's the fourth line center make the same amount of money as the guy that centers the first line? No. Is he still important to the team?
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. And he, of all people, should be fucking complaining, gets a nice push when he first comes up. They fuck around, Ryback still happens, whatever. He then gets a renewed push. Like, people gave him the opportunity to be utilized, and he didn't get over. And I realize with Vince McMahon, that's like walking across a lake of kittens with golf cleats on. It's like the whole thing is terror and panic the entire time. But you have to maximize your minutes, as JR would say. And Ryback never did that. It was all this stuff like, well, change my gear.
Yeah.
No. That's a brief dying moth of interest that we have because you look different now. But you look more like Goldberg. Jesus
so he changed his
Christ.
gimmick, but he ended up looking exactly like somebody else.
The entitlement just kills me, man. It's like, dude, you never did anything to earn what you're asking for.
And again, like you said, it's not like you or I could step into the ring and do what he does. However,
no, he'd kill us.
Yeah, no presses through tables for me, thank you very much. But and out of all of this, not to bring up CM Punk, but I'm gonna do it anyway. It lends more credence to what CM Punk said on that Tell All podcast. Because people were kind of dogging CM Punk for a little while after that podcast, saying he kind of like ran Ryback through the mud and everything. But the proof is in the pudding, as it were. And Punk is living in a glass house and throwing stones and talking about Ryback and maybe his personality. But Ryback decided to take his ball and go home. Or was sent home, depending on whose side you've heard.
And you know what? It was shitty when Steve Austin did it, and it was shitty when Shawn Michaels did it. It's shitty when even a top guy gets sour and takes his ball and goes home. But it's just such a bad diva attitude. And I don't mean diva in terms of the
yes.
Now.
Yes, divas don't exist anymore. Except on Total Divas.
Yeah, exactly. Divas gone dodo. Yeah, I just don't. The sense of entitlement blows my mind. I've never seen anything like that. Where the fuck does he think he has any leverage in this? He can't be doing well in merchandise sales. No one fucking likes him. Oh, he gets a big pop at the arenas. It's
no,
like,
he doesn't. When he came out of SmackDown, he did not get a big pop when I was there. Also, well, I might not have been able to hear the pop if there was one, because I was booing him. The most ferocious boos I've ever tossed out in my life. And I've been to Bruins Canadiens playoff games and Red Sox Yankees playoff games and said some pretty bad stuff. But nothing compares to what I was saying about Ryback. Anyway, I'm a terrible person. Moving on.
Ryback's a terrible person. Yes. He should recant. Recant and repent,
Shame.
You giant gerbil.
Shame.
Shame.
Women's title. Natalya and Charlotte. We're doing it again because of the Ric Flair involvemento in their last match. Did you see the rumor that was going around? I believe it was last week that a top female wrestler was going to be leaving the company soon.
I did. Did we get any more on
I
that?
did a little bit more reading. There's no more reports about it, so I basically just read speculation, which is as good as looking at my own ass in the mirror. But a lot of people are thinking that it's Natalya. And this could be her, because she just suddenly got pushed into a women's title feud after, Becky and Sasha both kind of had maybe a claim to it still. Maybe, she loses this match without the involvement of Ric Flair. And then she rides off into the sunset to go, live with Tyson Kidd. What's his real name? TJ? Yeah. To go live with
Wilson.
TJ. And, they start their family together.
Yeah, it's just... What would be unfortunate about that is that it'd be confirmation that he's never going to wrestle again. And we'd also be losing her, and it's sad. And it's sad in a selfish way, I'll completely admit it. Love them both, love watching them perform. People call like the Heart Dungeon cruel or draconian or overblown even. But I really respect all the people that have come out of there. I mean, it's an institution, and you don't make Bret Hart and Owen Hart and Natty and TJ and everybody else if you're a slouch. So it's just, it sucks. It sucks to see, like, I don't know, TV performers hanging it up.
Yeah, and I mean, the question I would propose to you is, would it mean more if Natty loses clean in a really good match where the focus isn't on what's going on outside the ring? The focus is what's going on in the ring, and these two women, they go out there and they tear the house down like we know they can. We've seen them do it. Or, so she loses clean to Charlotte, and she gets her send-off there. She gets her farewell. Charlotte leaves the ring, and Natty gets to say goodbye. Or does she stick around for a little while longer? Does she win? Do they put the belt on her, only to have Charlotte come back and beat her at Money in the Bank with the help of Ric Flair? What would mean more?
See, I think they're always going to go with their bottom line, and they see more money in Charlotte. They obviously see more money in Charlotte. They think she's the star, and it's not a knock on her. She's great, but it'd be the same thing as AJ Roman. It's just going to potato, because they're not going to let someone else take it off Natty, and it'll feel anticlimactic to have it be like Sasha taking it off
Sasha's
Natty.
going to be the one that beats Charlotte, and also, if Sasha's the one that's going to beat Charlotte, would Sasha's win not look as big when she finally does do it if Natty has already beaten Charlotte previously for the belt? So, yeah,
exactly.
I could see, as we laid it out like that, I could see Charlotte winning clean, and then Natty gets her farewell. Or maybe she comes out the next night and officially retires. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking way too far ahead. Maybe the rumor was about Lillian Garcia. Who knows? Who was back on Monday? Those rumors are quelled as well. Dean Ambrose and Chris Jericho. This is a feud that, I'll be honest, I was not that impressed with their match at Payback. Which sucks because Dean's one of my favorite guys. And what really sucks for me is that I don't know if Dean Ambrose is my favorite wrestler anymore. The way he's been booked, and the way that he's not really seen as a serious threat anymore. And I think it absolutely 1,000,000% comes on the heels of his loss to Lesnar at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's hard because I have kind of been off and on with WWE. We're kind of, our status is it's complicated. And but I'm like way more invested in Cesaro and Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, and I'm waiting with bated breath for Seth Rollins to come back. And I really think like Seth is probably my active guy
I couldn't have said it better myself. That's the exact same conversation I had while watching Raw on Monday night with my roommates and my girlfriend. Was that, I pop every time for Sami Zayn. I pop every time for Cesaro. And when the news came out that Seth Rollins was going to be coming back on Raw June 6th, 2 days after my birthday, so happy fucking birthday to me, to be a little bit selfish there. But, I just feel like Dean is just kind of, he's slid down the card. He's almost a non-thought. And I feel like Jericho has really just slid down. And also, I don't know why their feud's continuing on, because Dean beat him clean at Payback.
Exactly. So is this going to be where Dean eats a bunch of losses again?
And the match they're having is, I had texted you in jest about a Caged Heat straitjacket match, going back to, I think, was it WCW Greed? Where Steiner and Booker
like
T...
that.
Scott Steiner, Big Papa Pump, they had the straitjacket Caged Heat, a.k.a. Hell in a Cell, match. And when Dean like pointed up at the ceiling on Monday on Raw about what the gimmick of their match was gonna be, and I was like, oh fuck, here it is, no way. And I saw the cage coming down, and the first thing I noticed was the straitjacket up there. I was like, no way, no fucking way. And it turns out it's going to be the first ever Asylum match. They have painted the cage black, a la TNA Lethal Lockdown, or just Lockdown. I'm not sure. And there are several items hanging up there to be used. And I think that this is going to be a very fun match. I worry about Chris Jericho just because he is older in terms of wrestler age. And any match that involves the participants climbing up to a high altitude, shall we say, to grab the plunder that's up there, poses risks and everything. But let us not forget, was it not even a year ago when Jericho jumped off the top of a cage to try to deliver a move in his...
That's true, yeah. He tried to drop an elbow on Bray, I think, wasn't it?
Well, no, I think he tried to drop it on Bray, and then Orton attacked him in the med room.
Yes. Yep.
You know, thankfully they got the scissors out of there, so we didn't have an Arn Anderson Sid Vicious redux.
Oh my god.
But does Jericho win this Asylum match because it is Dean's specialty, so they'll swerve us there, and we'll get one more match with them at Money in the Bank? Or is Dean one of the entrants, and I feel like he should be in the Money in the Bank ladder match?
Yeah, I mean, I think he should be in the Money in the Bank ladder match, and I think before he was the perfect candidate to carry it. I think you've got a built-in story with will he ever cash in on his friend, and he's unpredictable. You never know what he's going to do. So, I mean, it could have been a powder keg, but like you said, it's not even like they slip down to the mid-card. It feels like Jericho and Ambrose are like in a parallel universe card. You know what I mean? Like, yes. I don't know where you would, match order where you would put it. It's not Social Outcasts. It's not, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. It's not Roman Reigns and AJ Styles. It's who the fuck knows?
So I'm looking at last year's Money in the Bank match. There were 7 last year. Also, Seth and Dean went 35 minutes last year. Their ladder match. And it did not feel like 35 minutes. So that's a damn good match. I'm going to go back and watch that later to be honest here. So you know what? Fuck it. Let's start tossing out names here. Let's book this now. All right. Let's book it now and we'll see what's going on. So we both said that Sammy and Kevin should be in there. The Diener. Who else you got? Does Del Rio deserve a spot?
See, the
Where is Alberto Del Rio?
Yes.
I have that written on my notes.
Yes. I don't know. Because the rumor going around, if you believe in these sort of sordid things, there's a rumor going around that Del Rio or Triple H has heat with Del Rio. That he thinks that if you put him anywhere near the scene, you're going to blow up his ego and ruin everything.
And my question is, where the fuck was Triple H saying that when they signed him?
Well, yeah.
Why would they waste money? And I'm not saying waste money because he's not a talent, because I really like Del Rio as a wrestler. But why would they waste money on a guy, give him a ton of money, if their ultimate intention was never to use him to the full extent?
Right, just to keep the competition from having him? I don't get it.
So, let's say for the sake of sakes, that Del Rio's not in the Money in the Bank.
You know who I bet will be? Sin Cara.
Oh,
they'll want to put a high flyer in there.
Yeah. So Sin blah blah is in there. So we're at 4. We need 3 more.
Big Cass.
Oh no. Not to say I don't like Big Cass,
but they're high on him.
Because yes, they're clearly high on him. So There were last year it was Neville. It was kind of the surprise entrant. Do we get a surprise this year? Does Apollo Crews get tossed in there?
That's true. Him or Corbin. Maybe both. Baron Corbin stomping around. This little weird crying belly button.
He wouldn't even need a ladder to get
No.
up there. He could take 2 steps and grab the damn thing.
Climb a little mountain of indie dorks, huh?
Does Sheamus get a bit into it simply because he won it last year?
I'll pass on that one. Nothing against Sheamus.
So
but,
we've got 5 right now.
I just don't know. I don't know how they think. It's not like there's a pattern or a precedent. You know what I mean?
Does Dolph Ziggler get inserted in there?
Does Zack Ryder get to do it? Because they said big things are coming.
I like Zack Ryder as a guy, but like, this is what fucking kills me, is that this is a huge match. This is one of my favorite matches of the year. Because it dictates so much moving forward. It's like the Royal Rumble for me. But it's, it's smaller, so you have there's more percentage of either of the guys. Yes? Oh no.
Mm-hmm.
Did we lose it? You still there?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah, are you here?
Hello?
Are you
Yes.
here?
Yes, I'm here. Are you here?
Yes.
Okay.
So sorry, you were saying about Money in the Bank.
I was
ladder
saying,
match.
like, yeah, Money in the Bank. For me, it's like I love this match as much as I love the Royal Rumble match. Because it dictates so much of the storyline moving forward. And, but this match, there's fewer guys. So there's a higher percentage chance of each guy winning. It's just very fun to watch. And I'll be fucking honest, I remember watching this show at your house last year, the same night of the Game of Thrones season finale, by the way, which we waited to watch. Because that's what we do.
Holy fuck.
Yeah, so we waited to watch that pivotal episode of one of our favorite television shows, and we're not talking about Money in the Bank. We're not talking about WWE, even though it was a great show. I remember watching that, and, like, fucking Sheamus won. And I remember there were a bunch of us that were watching that, and when he won, the room was just silent.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't, oh, damn. It was just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's like, where are
What
they
the
going
fuck?
with this?
Because the belief was that Reigns was going to win it. And we were all pretty resigned to the fact that he was, and okay with it.
Yeah. You got the desired effect. You won the people over by force.
And then they laid out the big peanutty turd. So I what I'm trying to say is that this is one of my favorite fucking matches. And last year's pissed me off really bad. So I'm like double looking forward to this year's. Even though last year had the great moment where the lights went out and they came back up and it had that awesome shot of Bray Wyatt standing underneath the ladder laughing maniacally.
That was so good.
Before knocking it over. That was really, really fucking good. Every once in a while, they get their visuals perfect. The problem is, they run so much TV every week that it gets lost in just the sheer, what am I looking for? Swath of content.
Mm-hmm.
The sea of content. There's one beautiful conch shell every 800,000 meters. Who else in theory could be in this? Could you see an AJ Styles being in this if they do blow off the feud with Reigns?
Could you see Seth being in it?
I would die. I would.
Yeah.
I would lose my mind. The problem is that if anybody except somebody named Seth Rollins won that match, I'd be fucking livid. And even if it meant somebody running in and costing Seth the briefcase, and then Seth spirals off into a feud with that person, I don't give a fuck. Because his work with the briefcase was top notch. And, whether he comes back as a heel or a babyface, that's still... I feel like that briefcase is his. especially after seeing it on Sheamus. It's like that's
Yeah, no,
no,
they
I don't
it
like
was
that.
really kind of a masterstroke what they did with Seth Rollins' run with Money in the Bank briefcase. It really did feel to the point where it felt integral to him, so that when he became the champ, I was like, oh, this feels really strange.
Yeah. Can he just come back right now?
I know.
Like, god damn it. We're just going to change the title of the show to the Seth Rollins Love Fest, because when he comes back, oh my god,
I'm just gonna shoot around the living room on a rocket of my own poop. Like,
think about the shit we've had to watch. Think about, no. Think,
I hear voices
Yeah.
in my head.
yes, I know, yeah. What if he comes back? Because they haven't set a date for him,
No,
right?
I think he's
For Randall?
farther along in his, or he's farther behind in his recovery.
Okay, that's what I thought. So, I mean, I don't necessarily see him being in the Money in the Bank match. Also, I don't see Cena being in there. I almost think that it's below Cena at this point. And I think that a run with the U.S. title again would even be better than Cena with the briefcase.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like it's just not. I feel like the briefcase is a younger guy's thing. It works better on younger guys. And maybe that's why the run with Sheamus was such poop fart shitfaceness. Do we see a Gallows or an Anderson involved?
Maybe both.
That would be interesting. Do we see what's the timeline for? I gotta look it up. What's the timeline? And then the NXT takeover, the next takeover, which we'll talk about in a little bit because big news happened today as we record this show about the main event of the next NXT takeover. But I'm just crunching some quick numbers here. I'm just trying to see what the date is. So it's June 19th at the T-Mobile Arena in Paradise, Nevada. June 19th is 11 days after NXT TakeOver. If Samoa Joe retains, what about a Finn Balor showing up in the Money in the Bank match?
I don't hate it. I think that'd be sweet.
That could be something. That could be something.
Yeah. Oh my god, yeah.
So that would be very, very interesting.
You could also it sounds so conspiracy theory bullshit, tinfoil hatty, but I mean, you could do the kind of thing too where it's like maybe Anderson and Gallows are in Money in the Bank match, and Finn Balor gets involved, and there's kind of this the announcers talk about oh yeah, they used to roll with each other, but it's every man for himself in this match. But what if you had the two of them help him win that match? Heel turn for Finn. Kind of like when Kevin Owens debuted in NXT. Think it's going to be one way. Flip-flops on you. So he's a heel with the briefcase, and he says he's going to come for Roman. He's going to do what AJ couldn't do. So AJ's kind of lost his buddies. He's lost his support system. They dragged him down into the dirt. So you have an opportunity for him to team up with Roman. There's any number of things you can do with the introduction of Finn Balor and with all these moving pieces in the Bullet Club.
Yes, the BBC.
The BBC.
So, I mean, God, I'm just gushing about Money in the Bank now. I had some other notes I want to talk about. I don't even give a fuck. I love the show Money in the Bank so much, and it almost feels like I'm looking past Extreme Rules. I'm not. There are a couple other matches that I do want to talk about, and we'll get to in a second here. But, I don't know. This year feels special for Money in the Bank. There are a lot of different directions they could go with it. Last year, the competitors in the Money in the Bank ladder match were Sheamus, Ziggler, Neville, Kofi, Kane, Reigns, and Orton. And I think it's safe to say that Kane will not be in the fucking match
I
this
don't
year.
think so.
I also don't see Kofi being in the
No.
match. So, and that's obviously not a knock to him. He's a great guy in ladder matches like this, the multi-man matches. He gives you great spots, memorable spots and everything. But I feel like this year is going to have a very different flavor to the match. We might even, there might not even be any of the same guys from last year's match in this year's. Because I don't think Neville's going to be back in time.
See, it would be great if they told interconnecting stories with all of this to put people in the match. So it's not just like, well, hey there, we're a week out from the pay-per-view, and we've decided to announce 2 new participants. Maggle, it's Baron Corbin and The Big Show. Like, I would love it if it was just like tensions boil over the main event scene, because I think if you have Seth and Cena coming back around the same time, and Bray even, we don't know where he is,
yes,
if they all come back around the same time and everyone's like squabbling for the title and AJ still wants a piece of it, you've got your players all set up. So it could even be, we said it's a younger man's device, but it could be the kind of thing where you get Cena, Bray, Seth, AJ, Anderson, Gallows. You get anyone who's kind of on the periphery of the scene, gets kind of grandfathered into the match, and it's like, okay, you all want it so badly. This is the Kumite.
Yeah. If you were to make this the big deal, and the question would be who would be challenging Roman for the strap at that point.
Chris Jericho, are they going to give him a win over Dean and then toss him over to Roman and let Roman clean the floor with him?
I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all. I think that Jericho, again, I think Jericho's doing tremendous work. He's such a fucking good heel. He generates great heat. He's the classic, like, he like calling people stupid idiots. Like, he gets people to just fucking hate him. Everyone's like, oh, it's so dumb. It's like, yes, it's so dumb because it's so good. Because he knows what he's doing.
That's the point. You hate it, so you hate him, so boo him, because that's what the story calls for.
Yeah. Boo this man.
Boo this man.
I'm looking back through the card from last year's Money in the Bank. There was some pretty poopy matches on there, too. Primetime players knocking off the New Day for the tag belts in 5 minutes and 48 seconds. Big Show defeating the then Intercontinental Champion Ryback by DQ at 5:28. And on the pre-show, R-Truth beat King Barrett.
That's, yeah. That's a Little Caesars hot and ready for you.
Yeah. The bacon wrapped, 9 feet of bacon.
It's all sizzle, no steak. Literally no steak.
Bite,
they
bite.
can't legally serve it.
Bite, bite, sip, sip.
That's the deep dish.
That's what makes the combo.
Mambo.
Gonna have to listen to that later on loop. So basically what we're saying is we're excited for Money in the Bank. There are still some matches at Extreme Rules. The tag titles are going to be on the line. New Day taking on the Vaudevillains in a match that just doesn't seem that big or that important, because I feel like the Vaudevillains haven't really been either given a chance to get over, or I just don't know what's going on with them.
I mean, people boo them pretty emphatically, so I wonder if it's not that they're garnering some good heat, but I don't know. I have a bad radar for it. And I'm also like, I don't know, at the risk of calling anyone at the Cage Side Seats website out, I am very susceptible, so sometimes when they are like shitting on something, I'll be like, yeah, no, that doesn't have a chance. And then I stop and think about it. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe it does. Like, I can think of a way this would work. And the Vaudevillains, like, are something that theoretically shouldn't work on the main roster. And I think their entrance music sucks. I think the black and white doesn't work. It's confusing when to snap in and out of it. But if they hit the ground running harder on this, like, sort of what's going on with Darren Young and Bob Backlund, like, make Darren Young great again, like, get back to fundamentals. So if the Vaudevillains kind of steal a little bit of the revival gimmick, and it's like, you know, we're going back to wrestling without the bells and whistles. New Day, you're only over because you use giant fake boxes of cereal with pieces that look like assholes, and you make masturbation jokes, and you wear bright colors, and we don't need to fucking do that to beat you. You know, there's a story there. It's just not one that they've elected to tell very concretely.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think that, and again, we were in the building. I feel like I say this on every podcast, but I don't fucking care. We were in the building last year at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn, and when the Vaudevillains as baby faces won those tag belts, it was one of the loudest pops of the night. So to see where these guys have gone from there, and I was excited for their main roster debut and everything. But when they debuted on SmackDown, it automatically almost made them feel less than all the other call-ups.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, why not just wait a week and have them debut on the next week's Raw? Why did it have to be that week? Because you automatically made people think, well, they weren't important enough to debut on Raw.
Yeah, exactly, because they haven't done enough to restore SmackDown yet.
Yeah. And makes SmackDown great again.
Yeah. It's going to be so huge.
The best people. I think that the story that you just brought up is infinitely better than the one that they're telling right now. And the fact that you brought up the black and white thing, like, it's so and even talking about what happened on Monday with the New Day when they went into the quote unquote time machine and they used that terrible video, I don't even know what the fuck to call it, the video warp effect on the camera. It almost like made you feel nauseous at home. The people in the arena, it doesn't look like that. So the response is going to come accordingly. And when you rely on tricks like that, obviously there are more people watching at home. Like, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the people at home are kind of gauging their reaction on what the people in the arena are doing. And, well, maybe not gauging their reaction, but people at home watching recognize what the people in the arena are doing.
Speaking of which, to shift gears momentarily.
Yeah.
Primo and Epico, the Shining Stars.
Oh, no.
Dude.
Oh, no.
I was like, okay, wait a minute. This arena is dead silent. So either somebody beefed and it's just passing through the arena like the wave, or instead of the Shining Stars graphic, they put up like a PETA kitten murder video. Or, just kittens being brutalized with a barbed wire bat. Because that crowd was so silent, I thought they only could have witnessed something like that. They had no reaction to these two. And what the fuck is that gimmick? We're Puerto Rican? We're Puerto Rico?
Yeah. What? Like, so they put up that, like, title placard, right, that said, the Shining Stars debut next. We didn't even know what their names were. What their tag team name was. All those vignettes, it's the punchline. It's the thing they say every time. Was it, come to Puerto Rico, the shining star of the Caribbean. But that's it. Did they even say their names in any of those promos?
Never. And it was never about wrestling or like anything about them. It was always like, the hibiscus is a flower native to the island. You really ought to come down here because it's pretty nifty and you'll like it a lot. It was a tourism ad. That's what I thought at first. I was like, well, they don't know what to do with these guys, so they're gonna do something in. I don't know. Is Vince still promoting in Puerto Rico? Like, Jesus Christ.
I'm so glad you brought this up because I forgot to write down any of this, but now it's all just like flooding my head. I have so many thoughts on this. I don't know where to begin. Okay, first off, if you're a casual wrestling fan and let's say you just jump back into watching pro wrestling, you don't know any of the characters, you don't know any of their stories. What makes you believe that these guys are pro wrestlers? The first time that one of their segments aired, one of those promos, I was like, well, WWE cut a deal with the Puerto Rico Department of Tourism.
Yeah, for real.
Like, they've been trying to, sign different ads, try to expand their ad revenue. They got Snickers recently. they got Puerto Rico now.
Paige drew the Snickers ad. Primo and Epico got the Puerto Rican Tourism Board.
So I was just like, okay. And then I think you texted me and you were like, oh, I think those were the Matadores. And I was like, no. And the next week, another similar ad. And I was like, oh, for fuck's sake. And so then we get to last night. The way that Michael Cole calls wrestling matches when people are debuting is the fucking
Oh my
worst.
god, I know.
Because he says things like, they call that move the blank. Like, who calls it that? Nobody has fucking seen these guys wrestle. How do you know they call it that?
Oh, he's a regular Gordon Soley, don't you know?
Like, his commentary style fucking kills me. Like he doesn't call moves. I can't remember what it was. Was it R-Truth beat somebody last week on Raw? And he was like, he delivers the shot to the head. And it's like, no, it's a move. It's a fucking move. But anyway, I digress, because now I'm fired up about Primo and Dushico, who I thought, in ring, I enjoyed their style. I enjoyed their moves. I found myself enjoying it. The stuff they said before they got out to the ring, not so much. What do they say that when they step in the ring, it's full of flowers or whatever, something like that?
It's an island. It is Puerto Rico. I have no idea. It's the Stargate. I don't fucking...
Yeah. Stargate SG-1?
Stargate Puerto Rico.
But the coup de grace, if you will, for me. And I'm going to ask you this question, and you might have an answer that proves me totally wrong, and I'm going to be okay with it, because I thought about it for a little bit and I couldn't think of one. Their finishing move is called the Shining Star. As Michael Cole said, they call it the Shining Star. First off, it looks just like the Fall of Man that the Ascension used to do before Connor got busted. Can you think of any wrestler that's finishing move was the exact name of the wrestler? Like,
right.
The Rock had the Rock Bottom, like his name was in the title. But like, he called that out, and I like fucking lost my mind.
You know what it is?
No!
The Shining Stars performing The Shining Star. It's the song Bad Company by the group Bad Company off their album.
Bad Company. Shout out to Matt Reno for that line. But yeah, like what I was like seriously, they could not come up with anything. They like I cannot think of a wrestler whose finishing move
come up with like
was their name.
The hibiscus lariat, like call it something, but like, just call it what we call ourselves, the Shining Stars.
Like Dusty Rhodes, hit him with the top rope, Dusty Rhodes. Like and you know, I'll try to look into it more. But I really believe there has not been a prominent wrestler. I'm not talking about like a guy on the indie scene that's name is Dick Face and his finishing move is the Dick Face. I'm talking about guys that have been featured prominently in some sort of major promotion. That's finishing move has been literally the same name. Like Jay Lethal Injection. That's awesome. It's fucking perfect. Yes.
Yeah.
But it's not called
It's a hot Oscar. She's going to drop it on you.
But even if it was called the Hot Oscar, at least it's got some other word there. So yeah, the Shining Stars, soon to be in a squash match on Superstars, coming to the WWE network near you. I feel bad for these guys, because they had cool moves. They won in a traditional squash match against local talent, which I will give the company credit for, but then instantly take it away for the shittily named finishing move. Golden Truth. It has finally happened, and I couldn't be happier. And if you sit around and you complain about it, why are you watching professional wrestling? Because not all professional wrestling is serious, super serious stuff. If you don't like Golden Truth, chances are you didn't like Norman Smiley. Who I love, by the way. So I've just added myself there. But they're finally together, and they're gonna stay together. It looks like, and in this feud against
Breezango.
Breezango.
Which sounds like
Breezango
disease for kangaroos.
And it's like, he's got that Breezango. You can see by the way he's bouncing around
kangaroo
there.
balls on the ground.
I think that this is an angle that we would not see on Raw if the names Cena, Orton, and Rollins were still on our TV screens and not out with injury. I think this would be a Superstars angle. I think it might eventually become a Superstars or a main event angle. But I think this thing has legs as a pre-show match. And I think the crowd's honestly invested in it.
most people are invested in Golden Truth, and I don't blame them. I like it. But Tyler Breeze and Fandango, like, it's great. When he walked up, it was like, the Golden Girls. And Tyler Breeze was like, Golden Girls. Sweet, man. It was perfect.
Yeah. They're like those smarmy heels. They're super good looking and they know it. And Goldust and R-Truth, Golden Truth, they're the outcasts. You know, they're the old guys. It's great. And you could even do like a Mikey Whipwreck where Golden Truth never win. But that'll just make the crowd cheer for them more the next time they come out. So if and when they do win, it'll be insane.
Shout out to Mikey Whipwreck. What a great reference and what a great wrestler.
I was just reading something the other day where his whole gimmick was that he never landed offense, and he still somehow won the television title and defended it successfully 3 times.
It's incredible.
That's genius. Hats off to Paul Heyman for that one.
At the time was that, you can have your Monday Night War, but things were happening in Philly.
I think it was Friday night that aired. Their TV show aired on TNN, and then I think it became Spike when they were just. I think it just became Spike when they no. Well, it was TNN because then Raw was on TNN. I don't know. I don't fucking know. Last thing about Extreme Rules, we're getting Ziggler Corbin no DQ because everybody wanted it apparently.
The match so nice.
Why is it a no DQ match? Did I miss something? I'll be honest, I haven't watched the most this week on Raw. I didn't watch the last 40 minutes. Last week I turned it off after that elimination tag match. Is there a reason for a no DQ stamp on this?
Try to make it fit in with the motif. That's all I can think of. Because it ain't exactly been a hot feud that's been burning up the fucking internet. You know what I mean?
So Ziggler beats Corbin with a roll-up at Payback. Corbin beats Ziggler with an End of Days on Raw. So naturally, as WWE does it, we get the third match. But why? I just don't know why it's a no DQ. I just don't. If it was a Falls Count Anywhere match, I could see that because that would go back to Corbin's first singles match, where they got the double count out
and all the stuff. I mean, End of Days him on the mat the first time and all that stuff. Yeah, I mean, it would make perfect sense, but it would almost make too much sense.
Too much sense. Yeah, and I think that Baron Corbin, since he's debuted and won that Under the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, and can they please fucking stop bringing the trophy ringside when he wrestles? I think that he has just been mired in the shit, and they clearly didn't have a long-term plan, as Jim Ross would say,
Apollo Crews.
For him. Yeah, exactly. That was going to be my next fucking point, is that where the fuck's Apollo Crews? They had the audacity on Raw this week. There's some fucking thing sponsored by one of their sponsors.
Yeah, it's like Chili's,
you know what I'm talking about?
Superstar of the day.
The heating up, yeah. It's this guy that we haven't seen on TV in 2.5 weeks. That guy's totally on fire.
It's like a spicy Serrano margarita.
How dumb do they think we are? First off, how dumb do they think we are? And second off, the people that watch NXT religiously, who again, they always say, well, it's a minority of the crowd that watches Monday Night Raw. But that's still, I'd still say it's a large number. And I'd love to see if they release the average viewership numbers of NXT weekly episodes and then also the takeover specials. But, what a slap in the face. You bring this guy out, you kind of made a big deal about his debut in his first couple of weeks on the main roster, and then he just disappears. And main event, you cannot watch main event on the network anymore, I think, for a couple of weeks because the deal they have with some TV station in Britain. And Superstars, does anybody watch Superstars?
No, not that I know.
And I feel Superstars is the same way, that it goes on the network a little while later. So you mean to tell me that I just don't... You put this guy on these shitty undercard shows, which belong to the likes of the Social Outcasts, who have been noticeably absent from television lately. Maybe that's to steer away from the Adam Rose, Ray LePan stuff, which I'm sure we'll get to in a second here. But I just don't... You brought up all these NXT guys. Enzo and Cass obviously look the biggest. And it's very unfortunate what happened to Enzo at Payback. And Cass is teasing that, Enzo is ready to come back. And, maybe he'll show up at Extreme Rules. Mind fart there. But those were the only guys that I feel like looked big when they came up. They felt big.
Yeah, I would agree.
And everybody else just kind of feels, we got more people on the roster.
They've called up too many people that they, again, like you said, they have no long-term plans for. But it's just, they could be used in NXT still. Baron Corbin, Apollo Crews, like you could still be using a lot of these people down there. NXT's starting to lose its luster for me a little bit.
Yeah, before we head to our traditional mid-show, was going to be like a three-quarter show, or maybe half show. We might go long tonight, people. But would NXT be served well with a secondary belt?
Interesting.
Because you could still have guys down there fighting for something, and when they get called up, maybe they didn't win the NXT title, but a guy like Baron Corbin could definitely serve by winning the NXT, insert title
championship
here.
TV belt.
Oh, yes. Why don't they bring the TV belt back on fucking WWE
premise.
television?
It's...
You know why they won't bring it back? Because Vince McMahon didn't think
there you go.
Even though they have the U.S. title.
I don't know. It gets depressing. It gets depressing after a while when you go, the answers are out there. And it sounds like I'm saying I'm so much smarter than Vince McMahon. That's not the fucking case. It's just... It's not that difficult to deliver a compelling product without having to rely on your weird little camera blips and your interpromotional stuff. Like, we didn't need Ric Flair to come out and be like, woo, let me tell you why Snickers, woo, is the greatest candy bar. Like, we didn't fucking need it. You needed the wrestler to sell it, not a fucking wrestler to prop up a brand.
And to be honest, I've enjoyed the Snickers ads they've done. The backstage ads where it's like, you're not yourself when you're hungry. Because that goes in line with the Snickers TV ads. And as a wrestling fan, it gives you a little laugh. Because it's a little funny stuff. It's not nearly as bad as the Natalia Subway.
Or the one where TJ was considering leaving her for chicken fries.
Yes, that's... And the Sonic stuff. We've come a long way, but then taken a step back with the Ric Flair Snickers nonsense. Anyway, we're going to take a quick break here on the Great American Cast. We're going to come back and we're going to talk more shit about the WWE. We're going to come back. We're going to talk a little bit about Ring of Honor. They've been doing some, shall we say, interesting things in Ring of Honor with their main event picture. We're going to talk about Emma. And we're going to wish her well because she is going to be out indefinitely with an injury. And we will ask the question, where the fuck is Sasha Banks? That coming up and more when we come back from this break.
Smooth music will be dead forever! Oh! Go, Toto, go! Go, go, Toto, go! Go! Hey, no, no! Hey! No! Hey, no! Hey, no! Hey, no! Oh!
Looking out
are back on the Great American Cast. Tanner Acebo and the recently unmasked Alex Koch with you. And we got some stuff we want to talk about before we go off this evening. That's going to be the Ring of Honor stuff. We're going to keep it with WWE for the time being. And the some recent news that came out on the injury front. And it's a performer that both Alex and I like a whole lot, is Emma. And she's going to be out indefinitely. Something to do with a disc in her back. She's going to need surgery, and they won't even know the timetable until after the surgery.
It's a real, to quote Semi-Pro, it's a real shit fucking sandwich. You know, it comes at a bad time. It comes at a time when I think she and Dana had a lot of great things ahead of them, and I mean, this is her dream. And you know, anytime any of these people go down, you feel like shit. You know, like Luke Harper. Like I read that horrible article where he was talking about how he thought his whole life was over. So when he injured his ACL, so you hate to see anybody go through that. And you know, obviously, like you said, we're huge Emma fans. If not for her, for that new theme music.
Oh yes, and to add to what you said, the fact that this you know, this profession, it's these people's careers, but it's also their absolute passion. And for them to not be able to continue their passion, and for someone like Emma, who has had a pretty bumpy road of it, main roster, shoplifting bullshit, back down to NXT, and she had just come back up. She was part of the multi-woman match at WrestleMania. It seems like she was finally getting into a singles program, and they just called up Dana Brooke. You know, I wouldn't call Dana Brooke her henchman. I'd call her like her number two. I wouldn't even call her like a sidekick or anything, but like wherever Emma goes, Dana Brooke goes with her, kind of thing. And you know, they were feuding with Becky Lynch. Now Dana's kind of stepped into that role. But I think they really had some big things ahead of them, both in storyline and for their careers. And you know, you obviously feel for Emma the person, having to go through this, you know, kind of scary ordeal. You know, we wish her the absolute best. Huge Emma fans here, and you know, very glad that her and Zack Ryder found each other, and then they both got called up to the main roster. You know, very quickly after the news came out that they were, you know, officially seeing each other. You know, if they were characters in The Office, they would have signed the sheet and given it to HR, like Michael Scott and Jan did. Sorry, I've been binge watching The Office, so I had to sneak one thing in there. But out of Emma's injury, we do get to see Dana Brooke wrestle in more of a singles role. We saw her beat Becky Lynch this week on Raw. Do we see her and Becky Lynch having a singles match coming up at Extreme Rules? Maybe on the pre-show?
Potentially. I mean, you know, it would be great. I would love if we could get two women's match on a pay-per-view soon.
Yes. Yeah, preferably I'd like for them to have a match on the main card. What worries me is I could see them giving them
and the thing
4
is,
minutes.
Dana is leaving the comfortable arms of the Performance Center now, too. And that's not a knock. I think she's definitely made leaps and bounds. And again, we talk about someone like The Miz, who's extremely entertaining and brings other things to the table, because there isn't necessarily a storied indie career there. And she definitely fits that bill. So I think she's serviceable, and I think the loss of Emma is a little bit of a liability, but at the same time, I think you can tell a compelling story with Dana, because she's just such a good character. And I think she and Becky would have a really, really great feud that you could have secondary to the title scene.
Yeah. And we've been craving this secondary. I'd even like to see 3 women's feuds happening at once. I mean, we got all this lip service about the Divas Revolution, and then, you know, they eventually got rid of the moniker Divas, thank God. But we got all this lip service, and we're still getting 3-minute matches on TV that end in roll-ups or end in distraction finishes. And I think that the fan base is ready. You have it's called the women's title now. I think the fan base is ready to see distraction finishes and roll-ups go away altogether. or just be used sparingly, so they actually fucking mean something. But far be it from me, to be right on that. But I think that the call-up of Dana Brooke is great. I think that she had I wouldn't say she overstayed her welcome or anything in NXT, but she had definitely gone as far as she could go. I didn't see them ever putting the women's belt on her. And I just think it really sucks that she's not going to have Emma there kind of as a mentor, as somebody who's been there before on the main roster in terms of behind the scenes and everything.
They had great stuff planned for that, but unfortunately, circumstances being what they are.
Yeah. So we'll see. Hopefully they get a match on the main card at Extreme Rules, and hopefully
that'd be great.
They get 10 minutes. If not more. I'd love to see them go a nice 12 minutes. It would really introduce the main roster audience to Dana Brooke. And it doesn't have to be a technical masterpiece, but I think the more time that we get to see these new faces on TV, or in this case on pay-per-view / special events, is that what they're calling them now or whatever? I don't know. Only does better for the characters to try to get them over. And speaking of TV and time and things like that, full disclosure, I don't watch SmackDown. I might start watching it more this summer as I have more time on my hands, but I just never have the time to watch it, so I usually just read the spoilers or read kind of a rundown of the matches that happen. Or, if there's a great match, usually you'll let me know, and I'll try to watch it on YouTube. But, because I'm prefacing this by saying that, where the fuck is Sasha Banks? If she's been on SmackDown recently, I apologize. I sound like an idiot right now. But where the fuck is she? Because she was one Ric Flair grab away from winning the women's belt at WrestleMania. And she feels like she's
the alleged motivation is they've got her off TV because they have big plans for her creatively. Because nothing says you're a big deal like disappearing from television altogether.
Yeah, what the fuck? How dumb do they think we are? That is such a bullshit fucking response. Well, you're not seeing her because we got plans for her. We gotta sit down and write the plans first, so we pulled her from
we don't
TV
want you
so we can
cheering
write
for
the
her
plans.
when you're watching Charlotte wrestle, because we see dollar signs in Charlotte, and fuck you.
Speaking of cheering for her and when they see Charlotte wrestle, a ton of "We Want Rollins" chants this week on Raw when Reigns was out there in both of his segments.
Yes.
Which did my heart good. Even though I like Roman Reigns, but still did the heart good. But what the fuck? What in the fuck? I understand they see dollar signs with Charlotte and everything, but how can you look at Sasha Banks and not see the same? I understand people say that Bayley's gimmick isn't going to translate the best on the main roster. I understand that. I don't agree with it. I understand it. I can see where people are coming from. But someone that can seriously say, well, Sasha Banks, I don't know. I think Charlotte's gimmick is better. We've talked about it before. Sasha Banks oozes swag. Unlike any other competitor on the main roster. We're not talking about just the women's division. We're talking period. Her entrance is always awesome. Her character work is phenomenal. And they pull her off TV because they have big plans for her. What are these plans? For her to show up at Extreme Rules on Sunday and make the save when Charlotte's about to beat down Natalya? What are these big plans? Because this company's called up a lot of talent recently from NXT and shown very clearly they have no quote-unquote big plans for these guys.
I have no idea what to expect. I wish I could say, there's some grand plan for Sasha, but we've been burned before. That you just take someone that we love, Cesaro, Sandow. The next thing you know, they're gone. They're hurt right as they get over. If you don't do something with her now, you're not going to have her later. Like it is possible. It's not like she's injured and you can't use her, and you're trying to keep her somewhat in the mind's eye. They want her to be gone completely, and I think it's because they don't want people cheering for her if she's out of sight, out of mind. But again, that defies logic, because if she's not there, you're going to ask for her. So why don't you give the fucking people what they want? It's going to save Charlotte. Just keep Sasha away from the title if that's what bugs you.
Exactly. And it goes back to what we're talking about. Having multiple women's feuds. It's not rocket science. Yeah. It's pro wrestling. Like, it really is not that insane or like novel of a concept. And I think that Sasha Banks is a true draw. And I think that she is a woman, and Charlotte included, that down the road could main event a pay-per-view.
Definitely.
And I feel like the more I wouldn't call it waffling, I just call it straight up pulling the plug on her push, even though they'll sit there and kind of give lip service that says, well, we're doing it to save her. I think the more they do that, the more they just hurt their talent. On either side. This could be any wrestler that we're talking about. If the crowd was going nuts for Alberto Del Rio, but they didn't want to put him anywhere near the main title scene, they just pulled him off TV. They're like, well, we're pulling him because we got big plans for him. And then he comes out and let's say he's in the Money in the Bank ladder match and he doesn't win it. What were those big plans?
And it happens all the time. I mean, this time last year they were like, oh, Dean Ambrose, get ready. Strapping a rocket to that guy. And I took that to mean he's going to win Money in the Bank, because there was a great built-in story there because Seth held the title. And didn't end up doing it.
And by strapping the rocket to his back, they meant he's going to lose a lot of championship matches. Which, I just don't get it, man, because his feud with Seth Rollins was so good. Before it was for the belt.
Yeah.
When it was just a blood feud. And then after, when it was for the belt. And it's another guy that I feel like they're just fumbling. Like, they are fumbling the ball. They had the ball on the fucking goal line, and they fumbled it. Or they pulled the Seahawks and they tossed a pick. Before we go here this week, Ring of Honor is doing some stuff, and we talked about this before we went on the air today. Ring of Honor, they're pulling some moves that seem eerily reminiscent of the NWO. They had the main event of their last pay-per-view, Global Wars, correct? That's what it was? Global Wars. It was in Chicago. It's Colt Cabana against Jay Lethal. Colt Cabana, obviously, in Chicago, the big homecoming there. And I am not going to sit here and say that I watch Ring of Honor regularly. But I pay attention when it's pay-per-view time. And this Colt Cabana match really had like a big feel to it, because it was like, holy shit, it's in Chicago, it's Colt Cabana. They did the streamers and everything when he hit the ring. But really, all it served was to try to further elevate the Bullet Club. The lights go out, they come back up. It's Adam Cole, right? It was Adam Cole that debuted as the new Bullet Club member, and then they just super kicked the bejesus out of everybody. But my problem with the storytelling that they're doing right now, is it reeks of the NWO, where then when they just started accruing members and eventually got way too overblown. Fucking Virgil was in the NWO. And Scott Norton.
God. Buff Bagwell and Scott Norton.
Buff Bagwell, Buff Bagwell too. Buff Blockbuster. Well, he gets paid by ladies to give Buff Blockbusters out now. I just don't. It almost angered me that they did all this to have Colt Cabana come back in his homecoming just to give that crowd a non-finish. And from the reports I've heard from the people that have talked about it, the place went insane for the Bullet Club and everything, which begs the question: are they really heels?
Yeah. And I mean, yeah.
They're walking that line again.
And you and I talked about before the broadcast, too, this idea that, like, the Bullet Club is the NWO. It really is. It's this, it's this organization predicated on how cool it is and how exclusive it is. I mean, that's why I bought a shirt. I was like, oh, it's the Bullet Club. It's not the Bullet Go Fuck Yourself. You can't join the treehouse. So, I mean, the whole gimmick is predicated on we're cool, we're exclusive. It takes a certain set of intangibles to roll with the Bullet Club, which is exactly what the NWO was. And you needed to be a 35-year-old man riding on the back of garbage trucks, dressed like a gang member, and saying slang that was at least 2 years outdated.
They even,
Yeah.
they even took the Too Sweet, man.
I'll admit, I popped a little bit when
even took the Too
AJ
Sweet.
and Anderson and Gallows too sweet at each other on Raw the other night.
But I almost feel that Bullet Club is different
For sure,
than the
for
current
sure.
incarnation we're getting. Because that Bullet Club had big stars in it. I know the Young Bucks are a big draw and everything, and not to sound too much like Jim Cornette, I'm not going to
monkeys.
call them like spot monkeys. Is that a term that people? Yeah, I'm not going to call them those. I think they're good professional wrestlers, but I think they forsake the storytelling aspect of professional wrestling, which really allows you to get invested in characters and stories, just to super kick people.
Yeah, basically.
I feel like that I don't know. I feel like Ring of Honor, they're in a interesting position right now. Because I mean, people don't forget about the NWO. Like, that's never going to be forgotten. And how long is the Bullet Club going to go on for, this new incarnation, before it starts to get direct
Exactly.
comparisons to it? And I don't know. I'm honestly pissed off that Colt Cabana isn't getting a fucking rematch, at least instantly. It's going to be Lethal and Briscoe too, which I'm sure will be a great match. But, kind of lost in all this, it's almost like the Bullet Club means more than the belt. When back in the day, in the NWO, at least it was fucking Hollywood Hogan
Right.
winning the belt and holding the belt. That faction held the top prize in the
Yeah, and
company.
at this point, it feels like roll out
And-
your requisite Bullet Club spot. And it's never anything. It's like you said. It's way too similar to the NWO. And I'm not saying that they should do more of the shit that they love to do, which is letting super kicking 9-year-olds and stuff. Again, like you said, not to be too Cornette, but there's a difference between professional wrestling and a scary medical procedure. One of them you want to demystify. So if a little kid, think about a little kid at Shriners Hospital and they're about to have a very serious operation or some kind of, form of treatment, you want to break it down for them and help them understand it and make it so it's not scary for them. But this is fucking professional wrestling. You don't need someone showing you how to take the moves and say it's no fucking big deal. I pretend to kick you in the face and I slap my leg and that's the whole magic and you go boom and that's it. I guess I just have a problem with it, and if it makes me sound crotchety, I'm not like, well, fuck you if you like it, but just personally, it'd be like in the middle of Breaking Bad, Bryan Cranston, not Walter White. Bryan Cranston just stares into the lens and is like, when we were filming this scene, you'll notice there's a guy taking a shit in
Yeah.
the cactus grove over there. He wiped with one. It was fucking unreal. That's not what I want.
I'm not a huge fan of magic, but it's similar to a magician performing a trick, then bringing a little kid up on stage and explaining to the kid how to do
Yeah,
the
do it
trick,
for all your friends
and
at
the
school.
kid does the trick.
Dip into my fucking revenue stream.
Yeah, and we're almost, I don't know, are we too old for Ring of Honor? I don't fucking know, because the super kick counter on the screen, I don't even care if it's designed to be hokey. I fucking hate it. I think it is a terrible, terrible thing, and I don't like the fact that Ring of Honor is embracing it.
It takes away all. It's like they know enough to have it set up to count it, and it's gimmicky. It's not a spontaneous thing. It takes the stakes out of it. Like if you know, oh, better get the Sweet Chin music counter out because he's gonna. Oh, number 9. Like it doesn't.
Yeah.
It stops doing it for you. It becomes a ballet instead of a spontaneous combat event.
And again, I didn't watch the show. I didn't watch the pay-per-view. I was thinking about watching their next one, Best in the World. I was thinking about ordering that, to be honest. But it would be one thing if the crowd counted the kicks, similar to how the crowd would count up from
Or
0
Lesnar
during Baron Corbin's
suplexes.
squash matches. Yes, exactly. You got a guy in the crowd, he's got one of those things, you tear off a number every time. Even if you plant the guy in the crowd with that thing, that's fine. But to put a thing up on the screen, they're walking the line of just, and again, not to be Jim Cornette, because the business is already exposed, but like just overexposing the business.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what's the point of watching? What's the fucking point of paying money to watch this? If I pay money to watch the next pay-per-view, to watch Lethal and Briscoe 2, and the fucking Bullet Club runs out, I know it's not going to be another joint New Japan show, but the fucking Bullet Club runs out, and here comes the super kick counter again. I didn't pay to watch the super kick counter come up. I didn't pay to watch the Bullet Club come storming in. I paid to see Briscoe Lethal 2. If I bought that last pay-per-view, if I bought a ticket to that show in Chicago, I came to see Lethal v Cabana. And yes, the Bullet Club, the Young Bucks, they were on the card earlier in the show. But I didn't pay to see them.
Yeah, if I were in that Chicago crowd, I'd be a hot little potato, let's put it that way.
And again, maybe it's because we have a different opinion on pro wrestling. I mean, you and I obviously agree on this, but I feel like there are others out there that just, might not, and might think that it was fucking great. The best thing since sliced bread, or the sliced bread number 2. One last thing before we go off the air. We're getting Samoa Joe and Finn Balor in a cage match. It was announced today on Facebook. First ever cage match in NXT history, I believe. And that is certainly something that feels like it's going to be a big deal.
It's going off.
And I'm very much looking forward to that. That's June the 8th at the upcoming NXT TakeOver. Still no title for it yet, and no other matches announced officially. I think were there other matches? Like, have you looked at any spoilers for NXT? I haven't,
but I haven't
in a
looked
little
at
while.
them recently, so I couldn't really tell you.
So I'm sure Asuka will be defending the women's belt against somebody. I'm sure American Alpha defending the tag straps, maybe even against the Revival in a rematch. But I guarantee that NXT will once again deliver on those takeover
They always
events.
do, but it's just the show has kind of started to suffer.
Yeah, it's almost become the show is just a thing to get you to the takeovers. Like, they just know the takeovers are the big deal. It's a similar business plan, if you will, to WWE. In that you watch the weekly TV and you get your payoffs at the takeovers. And maybe they could do with adding 2 more takeovers a year. I don't know. That might be an extreme idea.
If we're gonna get that caliber of wrestling, I'm all for it.
So again, we'll keep our eyes peeled for, more matches being announced for the next NXT TakeOver, June the 8th. June is going to be a great month for professional wrestling. Hopefully, we're not at the end of June and we're on this show and I'm ripping the paint off my walls because Kane has won the Money in the Bank ladder match. So it was great to be back on the air with you, Alex, after our hiatus here. And, look forward to talking next week. the fallout of Extreme Rules, and maybe already some ideas of what's going to be happening at
Yes,
the Money in the
perhaps,
Bank.
perhaps an inkling, or a seedling, or some other ling. Underling, changeling.
Underlings?
Yes. And it was
that an
also
Angelina
an
Jolie movie?
80s movie about, like, a guy... I'm going to fuck this up. But I think it's about... Google it and see. But I think it's about, like, a dude whose son dies, and he may or may not be involved in it, and he's being, like, haunted by a ghost of the child. Something like that. Apologies to George C. Scott, whom I think starred in it.
All I'm getting is Changeling 2008. But damn it, people,
Yeah,
you're going to stay on the line with us. Yep. All right, I got it. 1980. He was nominated for Best Foreign
Who was
Actor.
the guy? It was George C. Scott.
George C. Scott. It won the first ever Genie
wow,
Award
right
for
on
Best
down.
Canadian Film. Oh, he won the Genie.
I believe
for
it
Best
was
Foreign Actor.
also won by... No, he was a Canadian. The guy that was in the Trailer Park Boys movie. Shit.
No.
Yeah, what's his name?
The strip club guy?
I feel so bad, but he definitely got at least nominated, if not won, a Genie Award for that performance, which I think gives some credibility to our pals at Sunnyvale.
Marty Scorsese placed it on his list of the 11 scariest
The
horror
Changeling?
films of all time.
How far
Yes.
off was I with the plot? What's the log line?
Story is based upon the events that Jesus Christ. Writer Russell Hunter claimed he experienced while he was living in the Henry Treat Rogers
Oh, great.
mansion of Denver, Colorado. The tagline on the poster is, "How did you die, Joseph? Did you die in this house?
Oh, God.
Why do you remain?" The Changeling. So, yeah. So, everybody, watch The Changeling. And we'll be back next week.
Yeah.
On the Great American Cast. And not the Angelina Jolie Changeling. You can watch that too, though. Per usual, we're going to go ahead and let the Talking Heads take you home.
Hold the paper up to the light. Somewhere's passed right through. Expose yourself up there for a minute. Somewhere's passed right through. Take a little rest when the rays pass through. Take a little time off when the rays pass through. Go ahead, mix it up. Go ahead, tie it up. Long distance telephone call. Hold on to that paper. Hold on to that paper. Hold on, 'cause it's been taken care of. Hold on to that paper. See if you can fit it on the paper. See if you can get it on the paper. See if you can fit it on the paper. See if you can get it on the paper. And another affair, but it was only paper. Some ways they pass right through. Was a lot of fun, could have been a lot better. Some ways they pass right through. For consideration, take every combination. Take a few weeks off, make it tighter. Even though it was never written